Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Uce Podcast, the number one podcast that helps you pass time. And we do that by inviting my man, like right here, J-Bid, and folks of entrepreneurs, small business owners, and content creators. J-Bid, man, how you doing, bro?
Doing well, doing well. It's been a while, but glad to be back on your platform. It's been a
It's
minute.
always good to have you on, brother. Today's episode, we're going to change it up, man. We're going to talk about philosophy, something that both of are in tuned in. You know what I'm saying? I grew up as a Christian. You know what I'm saying? J-Bid, I believe your background was a Christian too, right? We kind of like coconuts. That's all we know in Samoa, right? All
Yes,
Christianity and stuff, man. But you know what I'm saying, listeners, you know, for our age, you know what I'm saying, we like to explore, man. We're going to focus more on being non-biased. So to the listeners, man, we like everybody that's from the Polynesian island, our practice of religion is all Christianity and they're all different denominations. But we're going to go ahead and cover Buddhism. What's the other ones? Also, what are other ones that we're going to cover? Just quite a few, man. There's all these different religions that we want to dive into and just have a conversation. You know what I'm saying? And just kind of go from there, bro. So, J-Bid, man, let's get it started, bro. Let's talk about this philosophy, man, because it is interesting, bro.
yeah. As you know, I'm currently, for those who haven't listened to our recent podcast, I currently live in Thailand, and I'm just to give you my background. I'm a minister for our organization, Christian, and the reason why I chose to go to the finance because I know everybody needs a little help on that. Won't you agree? And that's one way I try to see to help people is to share some of my research related to finance, Bitcoin, trading options, and also the stock market. But what I'm passionate about is learning about finding the truth. Well, is it my truth or your truth? Well, that's up to you. You have to decide. But all this information is available to us. And we're thankful because of the internet gave us all this information. We have
Yeah.
YouTube, you can read books, and you have podcasts of doctors and intelligent people that talks about these stuff. But while I'm here in Thailand, I've been diving into philosophy about I want to understand Buddhism, Hinduism, and Taoism, and also there are so many like beliefs out there. And I used to believe that okay, well, it's only the Bible. We need to stick to the Bible. You can't go outside. Once you go outside, hey, that's demonic, or that's how Samoans are, right? They're like, oh, you can't do that's demonized stuff. But because of Bitcoin, of that book called Price of Tomorrow by Jeff Booth, kind of opened my eyes to look outside, to to acquire more information, to read more. And what he said is time to time we need to challenge our beliefs to look if, are we still following the truth? Are we updated with some of the information that we, get from the doctors or like, philosophers or, even what do you call the people that have a degree like my brother in divinity, right? So
Hmm.
that way we can try to compare it. But what I do know is the more you acquire knowledge and look to different stuff, you start to see patterns in things. And that's how I come to perceive as truth. It's seeing patterns. Once you see patterns, life has so many patterns, then I may have a conclusion like, point that, okay, this might be the truth. But hey, the truth is that's up to you.
So you being out there in Thailand, you said they got Buddhism and Hinduism.
Yes, yes, Buddhism. So Thailand is 94% Buddhism. And it's interesting. You see all these people here that they wake up in the morning, they have their little temples in front of their house. If you go down the shop, and they offer sacrifice daily, like or once or twice a day, they pour a little rice or a cigarette or a little bit of food, and they make their sacrifice daily. You see it all the time. And then it makes me wonder, like looking at it, I feel like, okay, well, they need to hear the truth from the Bible, right? But what I learn is I try to understand where they come from, like try to put myself in their shoe. This is all they know. This is their life. This is embedded into their tradition. That Buddhism is their culture, and they may view us foreigners as outsider. That what we bring here is foreign to them. It's like not the truth. So to able to reach some of these people, I need to understand how they think, how they go about things, how they view life in general,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then Buddhism, they view this life as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Where is hell? Like we think some religious believe they see, well, hell is a place like below us, or another, like, mental state that when we die you go to hell. But Buddhism, they view hell, this is hell. This life is hell. This
Mm-hmm.
is
Interesting.
suffering. Yeah, this is suffering. And what they do believe in is a cycle of life or reincarnation. And what they want to get to is not to get reincarnated in this life, because this life is full of suffering. So when you talk about, hey, you want to live forever and all that, it's like, oh, I don't want to live forever. Why do I want to live forever in this life? Like, we're full of suffering. I want to not to reincarnate it. I want to get back to, they call it nirvana. They want to reach that state. And the only way they can be able to reach that state is they need to do good, funny enough, to show love, to be kind, not to attach to this system. So if they continue to do good, help the next person live a simple life or be a monk, then you're going to reincarnate it to the next level, or an angel or higher being. So that's what they believe in, which is interesting. Buddhism is I will call it the branch off of Hinduism. Hinduism was is considered like one of the oldest religion, but Buddhism is like, you know, kind of like break off from Hinduism if you look into it, which is very interesting stuff.
So the Hinduism, that's really like countries like India, right? Where the reincarnations and stuff like that.
Yes,
And then Buddhism is where you have the other side of Asia, of like what we're also used to seeing, Buddha. You know what I'm saying? The big old
right,
Buddha god.
right. And Hinduism was the first, and then they can't even date it. If you look up, Google it, they say Hinduism is the oldest religion because they don't know where it started. They say it goes way back. But Buddhism was founded by they name him Buddha, the awakened one, or his name is, I don't want to butcher it. His name is Siddhartha Gautama.
Mhm.
So story behind him, he was a shelter prince. And he before he was born, the parents, I think the mother, received a vision that seeing like an angel or some, like, being telling them that their child is going to be a special one. It's almost like a Christ, so to speak, right?
Yes.
So, and he was a prince. So what happened is the father sheltered him, like, you know what? We don't want him to go outside the world. We want him to give him, like, everything he needs. He needs to stay in this palace, or having all like the money and food and all that. I don't want him to see the outside world. But funny enough, in his story, he finally got outside from his shelter, like, palace or whatever area, and you see the suffering. You see people are hungry, and that bothered him so much, to the point that he left his comfortable lifestyle and he went to search for the meaning of life. So he went to like Hinduism and learned how to meditate. It sounds like to be a monk. And what happened is he went and sat down on the tree. I forgot what tree is it, and he meditated like for hours, like overnight, and sat there. He didn't eat, and that's how he discovered enlightenment, nirvana. And for some reason, he also expressed that's how another ET or entity or archangel trying to reach him with knowledge, and that's how he became Buddha. And then after that long meditation under this tree, he uh, he came and shared his knowledge, and now Buddhism is everywhere.
Interesting. And
But
that's really like in Asia country.
yes, yeah, yes, and
Mhm.
then he shared. And the thing I found out about Buddha is their principle is very interesting. It's all similar to the Bible. It's like learn how to detach from this life, like not to be materialistic. And if you are attached to anything, it will bring anxiety and suffering. And the other thing they talk about is if you want to reach enlightenment, you have to eradicate fear. Fear is evil to them. So, and and they're all about reincarnation. But the funny thing is, reincarnation. See, the funny, I'm not a doctor of divinity or I'm not, a scholar. But the more I dive into these information, reincarnation suddenly kind of stand out. Like it's almost like I'm starting to. I hate to say it, I believe in, But what do you think, us Christians? Do we believe in reincarnation? What do you think, Uce? I mean, just trying to
Well,
see from your level of Christian.
yeah. Well, first of all, before I say anything, I'm saying I do believe in Christ and stuff like that.
Okay.
Like you said, that's what we were brought up to, and that's what we've been taught. Do I believe in reincarnation? I don't know. I don't have an answer for that part because
Uh-huh.
yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Let's just leave it like that. I'm not sure, and the only
Oh,
reason why I'm saying that is because I don't see. You know what I'm saying? It's possible, right? It's possible because reincarnation means that you're in another body, you're in another form as a human being. But you see a lot of movies and stuff like that where that person's soul is now in a new form, and you can't really tell. Like, just say, like my mother passed away, right? Do I
yeah.
believe that she's now in another body somewhere else? She could probably be a black person or a white person. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. You get what I'm saying, bro? And there hasn't been no. It's hard for me to say too because of the Christianity belief that I was brought up to. Is like the Christian belief is what? What is it? Faith, not seeing but believing. You know what I'm saying? So it
Right.
contradicts. It contradicts of like, well, what I'm trying to what I'm saying. I'm like, well, I didn't see it, so that means I don't believe incarnation. I could be wrong, right? Because
Right.
it's still fake. Like I gotta believe it, even though I haven't seen it. If you're asking me, is carnation true or real? I'm gonna say it's possible. You know what I'm saying? Because again, if you go back to the Christian, like I said before, faith is what? Believing without seeing. So my answer is still like right here. It was the big old question mark. I don't know, bro. Got
Oh,
even
that's
all
good.
this.
That's good. And then that's why, like as you know, I'm a minister. I believe in the Christian.
Hmm.
Uh and that's what I preach is the good news of God's kingdom about Jesus, right? But as you know, we're brought up to be, I hate to say it, narrow-minded, right? Like more like belief. And I remember your brother, the podcast a while back, talks about sometimes religion, can has a negative effect, more like controlling, right? Things like
Hmm.
that. And then open my eyes, the same thing that they talk about here. But I'll for now, I'll mention some doctors that I follow, and these are philosophy and also like they have degrees on scientists and also Master of Divinity. Like for example, I'll just mention a few that I follow. Is Dr. Jim B. Tucker. He study and research children who remember their past lives. Scientist Stephen A. Schwartz. He studies remote viewing, and also, if you remember, I told you about Edgar Casey. He's a sleeping prophet, so he has a museum back home. I forgot where it is in the East. And scientist Bruce Lipton. He studied biology and environment affects our life of our cells. The fourth one is author Edward T. Martin. He talks about the Book of Travelers about Jesus and mentioning the reincarnation too. And Dr. Raymond Moody, NDE. NDE, you probably know that one, huh? Near death experience.
No,
Yes.
not that
So
I'm not.
yeah. So Dr. Raymond Moody, if you looked him up, he studied near-death experience and all these millions. It's funny. There's so millions of experiences, people that they die and they cross over and they come back. That's what it is. So he studied. He's not this doctor to study and take notes of all their what they express, but and they all kind of say the same thing. But before I want to go into the reincarnation, I wanted to talk about the science behind it, if that's okay with you.
No, go ahead,
As
bro.
as you know, I'm into my background. I'm an electrical engineer, and recently I just went to school for communication, just learning about antennas and radio waves and all that for cell phones and the Wi-Fi and all that. But we forget that the world that we in, how we receive signal for our cell phones is through radio waves. And in our mind, electrician, you know, when we want to turn the light on, it's wired. The signal is sent by wire, right? The current electricity. You turn on the wire. But sometimes we forget, how are we getting signals from our cell phone? How can I communicate with you wirelessly, right?
Yes.
It's through particles, through like atoms, through like radio waves. It's a pressure wave, as they call it in school. So when you send a signal from antenna, this thing just vibrates out in the world, and then it reaches our cell phone, and our cell phone picks up the frequency. They're all different frequency, and the frequency that will interpret information to be able to communicate. So everything in this world is frequency. As Nikola Tesla talks about, if you want to know the secret to this universe, um, you have to think about energy, frequency, and vibration. So everything vibrates, everything is energy. And that's how I discovered, I know I mentioned this to you the other time, the law of one. Now that is the one I'm fond of, the law of one. And the law of one talks about everything is connected. Like we're all connected. Like even the table I'm sitting in, these is our condensed atoms that are combining, because of the Higgs boson, then it makes it solid. I'm sitting on atoms, but outside the air, everything is connected by atoms, energy. And we're all one, basically, according to this philosophy. And we're all come from the source. And this source comes from, they call it the infinite creator, like the universe, everything, that we all came from the source, or God, as we call it. And this source is ancient, that, as we call it, Jehovah or Yahweh, or some they call it Jesus, and that we all came from that. And then according to this philosophy, that this source breaks itself down and comes all the way and have different beings, basically created everything. But we're all connected in some way. And if you think about that, because I'm going back to the science part, right? We're all connected. That's how we communicate. The frequency, everything's frequency and energy. Now, in the first law of, have you heard of first law of thermodynamics?
No, but carry on.
Okay, so the first law of thermodynamics says energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be converted from one to another. And this is science. So energy cannot be, so it all comes from somewhere, but you cannot destroy it. So think about that though. If you cannot destroy an energy, it only transforms. And I think the second law of thermodynamics, or part of it, they say it can only transfer from higher concentration to lower concentration. Meaning, for example, a fire, right? When you boil something.
Ignites, yes.
Yeah,
When a fire ignites,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. So the fire, when you turn it on, it's hot. But if you stop the fire, what it eventually do, does it get hotter or it get cooler? It
It
gets
gets
cooler, right?
cooler. Correct.
Yeah. So that's what they talk about, like, the energy, like, from higher concentration to lower concentration. So as an ice, solid ice, eventually it will melt.
Correct.
So, but everything is energy. Now, in our bodies, if you listen to Dr. Bruce Lipton, our cells have antennas. Think about that. Our cells have antennas. So if our body has antenna, what are our cells doing with those antennas? What do you think?
Communicating.
Yes. And now that the neuroscience are talking about that our environments affect our bodies. It affects, like,
Correct.
it can
Yeah. It should.
trigger
It
cells,
triggers.
yeah, trigger things in our bodies, like, and it can be good or bad. In the negative, like if it's our environment is like negative or stressful and anxiety, so it will affect us too in a negative way, and it will trigger cancer and all that. So according to Dr. Lipton, he said if our cells have antennas, that means information that we receive is from external. So then I go back to the vibration, right?
Hmm.
So if everything comes from the source, so that means we're receiving information from outside, from God, or from, our environment affects us.
Or what they call Mother Nature in the Western world. Hmm.
Yes. So everything vibrates. Now let's go back to reincarnation, right?
Hmm.
Well, as I mentioned, if everything comes from the source, so God, right?
Hmm.
And then our body, as many describe our body, this is a vessel. Then our cells have antennas. So that means if this source comes from, this is how they believe it, the source comes from God, and once a baby about to born, and this source, this energy moves into a physical body.
So,
You
in
get
other
what?
words, it's almost like the science word of the Christianity word of soul.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Hmm.
And then the reason why we use those words, we didn't have a term to describe those in the past, right?
Yes. Interesting.
Because everything is energy. I call it energy and more entity or energy, because I don't want to use the word soul because it kind of like go to the other way.
Hmm.
But this energy comes from the source, God. And if our body is considered a cell as antenna, that means it's almost like projecting this energy in the baby. So if you go back to the law of thermodynamics, energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be converted from one form to another. Think about that.
Interesting. Yeah, because the energy doesn't die, according to the
Right.
science or the author of
Science.
that book of their
Yes.
research. It needs to
Yeah. And
go
then
somewhere else. Okay. So, in other words, if we're going off of science, it shows
yes.
that reincarnation is possible.
Yes.
But if
Yes.
we're going off of Christianity, it's a no-no. And then what about other religions, bro? Like, because and again, you said this is a Buddhism, and I just want us to stick to one God. And in the next
Uh,
episode, I want to talk about the next God in the comparison, right? So let's just stick
right.
to that. I like this because of time too that we have. So
Okay.
let's that's interesting. So what I'm trying to get back to is you mentioned that Buddha was in a human form. So he was he was a prophet. A prophecy was whoever this family was, their son, who is Buddha, is going to be the chosen one. And then when he went out to the world, he was not happy. Then he went to go seek on. So you're saying that from your studies that Buddha is actually a human being. Kind of, it's crazy though because it's kind of like the same story but a different uh,
Right.
a different storytelling of Christians when it comes to Jesus, born from the Virgin Mary, and then going out into the world to be a servant. You know what I'm saying? Instead of stuff like that. So My question is, Uce, why,
Yeah.
Uce? Why, Uce? What is your look? What is your if you compare that to like religions of, because of course Christianity has what we have Jehovah Witness, we have LDS Mormons, right? We have what else do we have? Seventh Day Adventists, and then of course the Baptist churches, and
This
all the denominations,
Calvary Chapel.
Pentecostal. If you comparing apples to apples, can you go ahead and let our coconuts know the similarity, and then of course, like the good, the bad, and the ugly? Go ahead and break it down, bro. Let's just start off with like from any kind of religion that you're used to, because I can tell you a little bit about the experience of a Pentecostal. And Pentecostal belief,
All
it's
right.
all about the God, the God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, right?
All right.
And
Yes.
that is all God, right?
Right.
And in order for you to make it to heaven, in order for your soul to be risen up to heaven, is that you got to do right. You got to, follow the.
Right.
Well, first of all, you have to accept and confess that Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, and then don't go about your old ways and follow Christ. You know what I'm saying? By
Right.
reading the Bible, going to the ministry of churches, and being a servant of Christ, being just like Jesus. Love, all the fruit of the spirits, yada yada yada. Now,
Right.
that's what I know. That's the only religion that I've been around so far, besides the denominations, right? So go ahead,
Yes.
brother. Do you have any other religions that you have experienced? Because we're just trying to compare the Buddhism and the
Uh-huh.
similarity. Like we said earlier, listeners, we're just talking as a non-biased host. We're not trying to
Yes.
say who is right. We're just
Mm.
from the research that my man J-Bid has gathered, and from Puni Moa being curious and asking the questions, we just want to have a conversation. And feel free to leave a comment. Comment. Let us know if you like this. Go ahead, Oos. What's your
Well,
comparison?
all my life has been in Christianity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've been comparing Christianity to different beliefs.
Yeah.
But I'll say this: they all teach the same thing.
It's
Uh,
yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, if you go back to the what do you call it? The Sermon of the Mount, the famous speech, Jesus' speech, Matthew 5, 6, and 7. If you read that and think about it, it's all about helping the other person, love, showing love. And then Buddhism is the same thing. Be kind, be humble, help the next person. They all preach the same thing.
But the difference now, Jesus Christ died and rose again. Did Buddha do the same thing? What happened to Buddha? Did he die and became a god or what? You know how we see
So
on movies and
they
cartoons?
say they say Buddha died and he reincarnated to the next level, like
That's his version.
going
That's
to
their
heaven.
version.
We call it heaven, right?
Mm.
To them, it's nirvana.
Novada?
So nirvana.
Novana.
So the same thing with Hinduism. They want to go to this. They want to go back to the source. The source is Brahman. Brahman. If you look into Hinduism, that's what they want to get to. Reincarnated, going back to Brahman. Now, to them, is God a Brahman? Is this energy, the source? But we Christian call it as heaven. I'm now trying to compare. Like we want to go to heaven, right? And that's what their heaven is this going back to the source, be one with the creator. So, and the reason why I talk about reincarnation, because now I'm going to go back to the Bible.
Mhm.
Do you know the famous reincarnated, like, in the Bible? Like, there's a famous, people forget about it. There's one famous reincarnated, like, story in the Bible. Can you guess?
No, I'm going to say Paul, who was Saul, who used to be
No.
Saul. I don't know.
Jesus.
Reincarnate. Oh,
Jesus.
why?
Think about it.
Why? Oops.
Why I use okay, Jesus was Son of God, right? Or God.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He had a pre-existing life, right? So
Yes.
he reincarnated as a human being.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he
So
reincarnation into a human being. Okay.
yes. So and if you think about and the Bible, they have some accounts related to that. Like for example, Elijah, right? They say, oh, Elijah's going to come back. He's going to reincarnate it again. Or if you
Yep.
think
Yep.
about the prophecy, and then people said, and then people, hey, where's Elijah. And then Jesus told his followers, well, you all miss Elijah. That's John the Baptist.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a. So I'm just mentioning some of the stories. So, and I know you say you want to stick to one, but let me go back to the law of one.
Hmm.
And the law of one talks about we all multi-dimensional beings. We all came from God, and we're all part of God. And we are here reincarnated in this earth. I'm not saying I believe this, but I'm sharing what this philosophy is. And what happened is when we reincarnated, we forget. There's a veil behind us that we forget who we are and in this earth. And this earth is part of, you know, trying to do good or bad. And there's like to be positive or in the negative. And before I move on, the message of the law of one is, interestingly, is love. They said
Wow. Wow.
it's
That's
love. There's
Christian. That's the Western. I mean, Christian is the
yes.
same way. Yep.
And if you Jesus talked about, I think John 13:35 said, you will know all my disciples if you have love among yourselves, And
Hmm.
my favorite chapter of the Bible, I think, was 2 Corinthians 13. First talks all about love, right? It
Hmm.
says, if an angels come to you, it doesn't have love, if you prophesy or make miracles, it doesn't have love, all that is meaningless unless you have love. Love is the most powerful thing, and love is the essence of our creator. And that's what the law of one is. They say there's two paths. And this is how they describe it according to this. They channel an ET or archangel, they call it, a social memory complex. And according to this archangel or social memory complex, he said there's two paths for us humans: service to self or service to others.
Mm.
And he said, if you want to vibrate to the positive light or going, move up to the next density, or like it's you have to be service to others. And what he's trying to say, if you service to self, in other words, selfish, that's where negative vibration will attract, will become negative and become, like, so to speak, you need, according to this entity, he said, you have to reach 91% service to self or selfish to progress and graduate to be in going to the negative world or vibrate to the next heaven. But if you service to others, helping people, focus your whole life of helping people, then you will vibrate to the next level and the next level, and you become enlightened. And the more you help people, the more you're kind of getting close to God, and then you start to feel, God in you, and then you'll vibrate to after you die, you go to, or they didn't say they will go to heaven or the next life of, as they speak, heaven. But I describe it energy. Like, you go back to God, the source, in a good way.
Mm.
So the message is to help people, basically, service to others. And but I'll leave the Eastern religion now, and then I want to go back to Christianity then.
Hmm.
What are you still with me? I don't
I'm
want to
still
confuse.
no. I'm still with you. That
Yeah,
could be.
okay.
Yep.
Okay. So I found those Eastern religion like very interesting, but Christianity. Now, if you think about the information that we receive, what I realize is it's all control, censor, and being manipulated, right?
Hmm.
I don't agree with that. Like, if you go back to the past, in powerful governments, all they have certain information that they won't share with regular people. And the more
Yes.
you dig
Correct.
into it, and the more you dig into it, and then, for example, when you're back in the past, some people be able to foretell the weather, and then they blame it on people. Oh, you didn't worship God the right way. Okay, you didn't do, but and then they make them suffer. So Have you ever wondered how we came about with our Bible?
Nope.
What's that?
Nope.
Well, it all goes back to what do you call it? Back in the early Christians, right?
Mm-hmm.
During the Paul time, as they migrate, getting persecuted. People forget, like Roman Catholic was a powerful country at that time,
Mm-hmm.
pagan Rome and all that. But I'll keep it short. Constantine, the Roman emperor in
Mm.
304 CE, and people didn't realize there are so many back then when the Christians were going, well, going different way, different country because of persecution. There were different Christianity competing for the truth. I'll just name a four. There's many, but this is what I discovered. There were the Ebionites. Those are the Jewish Christians who live in Palestine, and they continue to practice the law of Moses.
Mm-hmm.
They have like the Gospel of Matthew, but they didn't believe in Paul. They think Paul is crazy. So
Mm-hmm.
they follow James. If you look it up, even in the Bible, James was a brother of Jesus. He was a head of congregation in Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one sect at that time, back then. They have the Marcionites. Marcionites, they see Paul as a chief apostle. And then, but the thing with them is they rejected all scripture except Paul and Luke. But here's the interesting thing I found out about them. They viewed the Old Testament God as a lesser God. He
Interesting.
said, yeah, they said that, if you think about that, remember people argue about the Bible. Oh, there's a different God in the Old Testament, there's a different God in the New Testament, the agnostic and what do you call it? The people that don't believe in God. I forgot the name of them. Atheist,
Mm-hmm.
right? So Marcionites, the second group, they said the Old Testament God they view it as a lesser God. They were influenced by the dualist ideas from Platonic or Platonism. The Gnostic Christians are a group that they isolate themselves in the caves, and this group is created a highly elaborate and they're uh, in sync with mythology.
Mm.
So they believe that they possess the true and secret gnosis, or in other words, knowledge. They believe in the physical body's world, that it's evil. And they also think that the Old Testament God, it's they call it the demiurge. They're kind of similar to the what do you call it? The Marcionite group. They look
Mm-hmm.
at the Old Testament God as a lesser God, so to speak, a bad manager. So, but they do believe in Jesus Christ, though. They say Jesus came from above, higher than this demiurge created God that created everything. So the Gnostic, their books, if you look up, if you go research 1945, they found scrolls and they call it the Nag Hammadi Library. They have Gnostic. So what happened is they were persecuted by the Catholic Church and they ran to Egypt. And there's a group also was, hiding in the caves. That's where the Dead Sea Scrolls came from. If you look up 1940, they discover I think 900, like, manuscript to the oldest Bible, like goes back 2000, and they found other Gnostic materials.
Mm.
So, but the Gnostic, this is what they believe. They believe that in Christ, Jesus. Jesus came from the true God to share the knowledge. And they don't believe in organized religion. They don't believe in any. So they're kind of like in sync with Eastern beliefs, reincarnation. We are angels, so to speak, right? But
Mm-hmm.
we came down here, we're stuck down here. But when Jesus came with this knowledge to free us, once we learn about the Jesus and the knowledge that Jesus shared with us, then we can be free and go back to the source, go back to heaven. That's what they believe in. But it's interesting because they think they possess the truth, and they're against the fourth one I'm going to mention, one of the other Christian sect back then is the Orthodox Catholic Church. so so I just mentioned the four of them, but there are many others in the early Christians. So the fourth one, Orthodox Catholic. So they're the one who wipe out all the other three out. They persecute them. And Constantine, you heard of Constantine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Constantine, when he came in power, he gathered a council of Trent, a council of Nicaea, and they say, okay, this is the true church. Let's just wipe out all the other ones. If they don't believe it, burn all their like manuscript and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of go back to what we talked about. It's like control information. They're the one, it's believed they canonize the Bible. They leave all other books out. That's what many, believed. And Catholic back then, man, they were brutal. If you look up the history, man, if you don't go by their way, they'll burn you alive. If you don't follow them, they kill you.
Mm-hmm.
If you come up with some kind of scientific stuff, they torture you. But anyways, those are the four. I found, if you dig back, the early Christians were one, as I mentioned earlier, the Ebionites. They're the Jewish Christian who follow James in Jerusalem. The second one is Marcionite. They follow Paul, and then they don't and believe the Old Testament God is a lesser God, kind of like the third one, the Gnostic. They believe that the Old Testament God is a demiurge, and they don't believe in organized religion. They believe in salvation is within you. We need to dig there, pray, and meditate, and bring out that spark, godly spark, and to be able to reach the Creator and free us from this world. But yeah, those are some of the four ones that, early Christians, I found. But there are other more that we can talk about it later down the road.
Interesting.
Time. Yeah.
Interesting, man. So, which one do you think the Christianity made it out here to America that's been teaching out here? Is it do you think it's the Catholic one out of the four?
The fourth one, Orthodox Catholic, once they, because it was the government, Constantine was a powerful country back then, Rome, right?
Mm-hmm.
And once they set up that Council of Trent, Council of Nicaea in 324, then all other surviving beliefs was wiped out. They go and persecute them and all that.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. From my history from what I understand with Constantine, it's a land. It was a land that was powered before the Romans. It was, I believe, Indians, but before they weren't even called Indians back then. They were more what is it? What Peruans or what's the cult? What's that race? Because they always going back and forward. Almost like the you know what I'm talking about? Because remember, Romans took over that land, Constantine.
Yes.
But before that, it was there was other countries. There's so many histories and documentaries about it.
Yes.
There was who are those? The ones with the elephants, the ones remember like 300, the movie 300, like the
Greece.
To Greece,
The Spartans. And then they're fighting against the Persians.
Persians. So wasn't the Persians the first one that was ruling that land for quite some time? And then when the Romans finally took over it, then again it kind of went back and forth. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. So okay, this is in the Bible. Talks about it. Those four powerful kings. One was Babylon.
Babylonians. There you go. That's
Babylonians.
What I'm
and Babylonians. Okay, and now since you mentioned that, well, I don't want to go there, but since you mentioned Babylonians had ancient knowledge, like so to speak, like Egypt, all that. They carry on that knowledge. They was conquered by Medo-Persia. Medo-Persia kept up that knowledge, and then Greece came on. Alexander the Great.
It was just different countries just taking over that particular land.
Taking over. But they always take the valuable things like their manuscript or like gold and all that. Then Greece came power. Greece and then Greece, the Spartans, and then Rome take over and then conquer Greece.
So that's another one I would like for us to talk down the road. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm more of the Greeks and the Greek theology. You know what I'm saying?
Philosophy,
Yeah,
Plato. Yes.
because it's so popular on movies and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
it's interesting, right? Because you see a lot of the Western side. When I say Western America, our
Uh,
countries, right? You notice how there's so many films on that end, and because it's all Caucasians. You know what I'm saying? So you'll see a lot of movies. I'm talking about movies, theater. You know what I'm saying? You
yeah.
see a lot of that stuff. That's why I can't. Places like Bollywood. You know what I'm saying with their
Yeah.
stuff.
Hollywood.
It's like, and then of course you got the Korean drama, and then Korea's
Yeah.
with their, and of course China, Asia with their movies and their histories, right?
Right.
I can't wait till we start getting more of the islanders, the Pacific side of our beliefs. Because remember back then, what we used to believe in the sun, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
You hear that story? That I think
Yeah.
once used to worship the our God was the suns, and we were cannibalisms too, like just all that sort of stuff. So.
I'll, I'll share this. I'll
Mhm,
give a nugget. It's just related to what you just mentioned, right?
mhm,
Remember, I just mentioned earlier about reincarnation. They said Plato, the Greek philosopher, like kind of teach like philosophies in Greece.
mhm.
They say he was a reincarnation of Egyptian uh, god named Thoth.
Yeah,
Thoth.
but
Yeah,
it,
and
it's
then they
interesting.
said Thoth came from Atlantis. He's an Atlantean,
Mm,
and Atlantean was sink under the ocean. According in the law of one talks about the Atlanteans. I'm filing. I got my research on that. We can talk about it later, but
mhm.
I'll give you this. The Atlanteans, they said, was sank, and their kind of like bloodline is in the Pacific, South Pacific.
It
So
might
do
be
you
us,
think the
brother.
Atlanteans are the islanders, Samoans, like the Hawaiians and all that? There's a research pointing. They said that's where the true Atlanteans like bloodline is. It's kind of like the islanders. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's true.
you know what? Because it kind of adds up. I'm not saying that it's true or not. To each its own. Again, listeners,
Right?
me and J-Bid, this is a non-biased conversation.
Yes.
Okay,
Right.
so don't be trying to come up in here and trying to tell us like, "Hey, man, what a yada yada." No,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
Because first of all, you're going to waste your time if you're going to try to comment and be like, man, you disagree. It's all right. It's your own
Yep.
opinion. This is our own opinion. This is what a platform is for. You know what I'm saying? We're
Yep.
just talking. We're shooting breeze. It's interesting how a lot of these movies, because I like watching documentaries and movies and histories for some reason,
Yeah. Me
you
too.
know,
Mm.
and it's like how everything relates,
Right.
man. And like the conclusion that you had, man, every belief, every God, every religion, every beliefs that they have, the philosophies that they have is one thing, love, right? You always said that.
Love.
Love, baby. You know what I mean? They practice
Yes.
that, man. And having being selfless, right? Now,
Yes.
anyways,
And
man,
that's
because of time, brother, because of time,
yeah.
we're going to continue the Atlantic because I wrote that down. I want to talk about that island stuff. But you know what I'm saying? Listeners, if you liked what you just so far listened, I know we went all over the place. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna try my best to navigate JB to stick to one thing, and we will talk about that more. And because this is like a whole, what do you call that? This is like a whole
Home
freaking
series.
series. There's a lot of series about this, man. If you like
Yeah.
and enjoy this kind of series, man, we will do more of this. But also, J Bid likes to talk about Bitcoins. What's the other man? I keep forgetting.
Investing.
Investing, right? Investments and stuff like that. Kailangan ng investments, liga. I like this kind of conversations. You know what I'm saying? But
Like this one. This one is deep.
yeah, this one is deep, man. It goes on and carries on, man. But yeah, man, if you agree or disagree, hey, that's on you. You know what I'm saying? That's on you guys. You know what I'm saying? But again, J Bid, man, because of time, brother, we're gonna go ahead and end this episode. And when's the next one, bro? When you think you're gonna get on, bro? When we gonna
Uh,
continue with the song, man?
uh, just let me know. Just text me or we
Yeah,
can work something out. Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna still do our thing one time a month, right? So that way
One time a
get
month.
our listen
Yes.
get our listeners going on, bro. We got this recorded. We will figure it out, guys. This is something new that we discuss. At the end of the day, man, it's you, the listeners. If you like it, we will continue on talking about this. If you
Right.
want us to just talk more about the investment side, let us know, man. Please help us by giving us information. You know what I'm saying? Because data is key. That will help us with this podcast, our content. If you like it, share the word. Help us get our followers, man. We're trying to get up to 1,000 followers. We're new at this, and yeah, man. Hopefully you like it. Spread the word. Brown skin. You know what I'm saying? Excellent. Brown excellence is what we promote. You know. This is Puni Moa, J-Bid, and we are out, baby.
Peace out.